Hey everybody. Oh gosh, it's already 7:00.
Hey, Chad.
How's it going? Happy to see everybody back. You can tell it's the fourth session, which is why I'm scooting in at 6:59 over here. Thanks for joining us one more time, everybody. This is the one where we get to put it all together. So, if you've been with us in these other sessions, that's great. If this is your first one, that is also great. Some of our work here, actually, all of it is going to suppose that you know some of the stuff that we worked on previously. But as we've mentioned before, if you come to something and you're like, "Wait a minute, I don't understand," or I don't remember this part," we do have recordings of all of the previous presentations and slide decks and all that stuff. Before we get started, I will say out loud, you may be able to hear in my voice, I'm not quite in total vocal health right now. Going through some acid reflux stuff, which I've never had before. Maybe some of you have. I see some nods of appreciation, and you might be thinking to yourself, Chad, you have to sing in a quartet at International in 6 days. And I would say, yes, I do. I'm completely calm, and I'm not freaking out at all. So let's get started. I'm going to try my best to speak healthfully, and if you can't hear me, let me know, and I will. I'll make sure to turn my microphone up rather than talk louder. So why don't we get started, folks? I'm going to share so that you can see my presentation here, and we will get this show on the road. That's right, folks. We are at Reading Music for Beginners Pitch Focus Level 2. This is the last in our spring series, but as you'll see at the end, we have some more surprises down the line of ways we might extend our learning. So here's what we expect from folks joining this presentation. One, that everybody stays muted on Zoom. Go ahead and check now to make sure that you are muted. Otherwise, I'll press that magical mute all button, and we'll make sure that everybody is good to go there. If you do have a question, please use the Zoom chat. You can put something in the chat, and we have folks like Ben and like Diane who might be watching that to make sure that I don't talk and completely get ahead of myself and forget to answer any questions that are there. I really want to be interrupted. Ooh, please interrupt me, which sounds like a joke, but the truth is, it is a weird situation, I've said this before, to be teaching on Zoom, to be teaching a music-based thing on Zoom, and have really no idea if anybody out there is doing it correctly. And so please let me know if there's anything I can state in a different way, or if you just have a little side tangent to go on. There's time for that. And then actually, please do. Today's presentation is really a lot of playing along, a lot of practice. We're going to introduce some systems, and then we're really going to put them into practice. And so I've planned for a bunch of things to happen. I don't know if we're going to get to absolutely everything, but let's get it going. Last time, we identified note names on the staff using treble and bass clefs. We identified a song's key by ear and by sight, by looking at the sheet music, and we located pitches on a keyboard and practiced plunking parts. Like, if there's a tricky interval in your music, what do we do to play that on a keyboard or a virtual keyboard? And we laid the groundwork basically for using solfege, which is the system that we're using in the rhythm sections of this online course, if you want to call it that. We've been using count singing. And the parallel here is using solfege. Some folks will be familiar with solfege, but before we talk about that, we're going to do a chat waterfall. This is where everybody writes a response in the chat, but waits to press enter or send until everybody's already in. So the question is, what part do you sing? And then think for a second about how does that affect your approach to learning music? I have a feeling we're going to get some different answers here. So I'm going to sip on some water. We're going to give it like 20 seconds for folks to think and type, and then we'll all press go at the same time. All right, if you've got an answer, go ahead and let her rip. Press send in that chat window and we can read each other's responses. Cool. Appreciating folks' answers, I think. So here's part of my hypothesis. First of all, seeing a lot of different approaches. That's great. Different people are going to use different approaches. I'm asking less about comparison and more about like just how do you learn music. Because I think that since the jobs that our parts in barbershop do are really different, I would guess that depending on your part, it might change how you're reading music or learning that music even by ear. So like Scott kicks it off and he says, not sure I do specific stuff with my part when learning, except I try to familiarize myself with the lead part. If you're singing a harmony part, we know that's a great thing to do, even before we get to chorus or quartet rehearsal, right? I would posit that a lot of leads might be more sort of like learning track driven in their approach. Funny, I didn't know that they were going to do this, but when people signed up to do these classes, they also put in their voice part, and I was so fascinated to see that it was like handful of tenors, handful of baritones, handful of basses. A lot of leads want to take these classes, and that makes sense to me. I'm a lead. I hope I've earned my stripes as a lead singer at this point. But I think that, if you're a lead singer, you're often drawn to the melody in a way that is really cool, and also in a way that, like, gosh, those 8 bars when the bass has the solo can be our kryptonite. Totally. And so being aware of like your approach to reading and learning music and how that might change depending on your voice part, I think can help us learn a little more about ourselves and about the ways that we can work to make our processes even better. Here's the menu for today. We're going to introduce and practice using solfege. We're going to do some simple melodic sight singing, meaning like sight singing a simple tune that is not like barbershop music. But we're also going to apply solfege to some barbershop tags. And we're going to look at some actual sheet music of barbershop tags and see if our knowledge of solfege can help us with learning some of that music. Story time. Why is there a picture of an onion? I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I hope that you'll find this relevant. When I was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I decided that I needed a non-musical hobby because I was spending all my time doing music stuff and doing that all the time at work, and I just needed some outlet creatively. And so I decided to take a painting class, and it was totally outside of my comfort zone. And I will never forget, on like week 5, I think, I was painting this onion. Our teacher like came around and gave us an object to like draw and then paint, right, over the course of the 3-hour class. I was painting this onion and I was kind of telling the teacher about my plan, and she said, well, Chad, do you know that shadows have colors? And I was like, excuse me? And she said, look at the way the light is hitting this onion in different ways. Part of the shadow is light, sort of like warm colored, and part of the shadow is cool colored. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. And you can see a difference in between my like work before week 5 and my work after week 5 when I realized a thing that was just true about the world. My knowledge of the system of how stuff works changed the way that, oh sorry, this is me talking. Hi, can you see me now? That's better, yeah. Changed the way that I was perceiving the world, and then changed the way that I could make art. Tonight we're going to be using solfege, which is a symbol, yes, for labeling pitches, but it's also a way of understanding how music is put together. And the hope is that as we learn systems for how music is put together, it changes the way that we hear it, and it also changes the way that we add specificity to our learning process. That we can learn our music not only faster, but also more accurately, because we have more awareness of how stuff is put together. Instead of just sing this, ba ba da ba da, it's like sol fa mi re do. And when we label it, it allows us to actually sing in tune a little more accurately. That's my sermon for today. Here, you can see my beautiful onion. Look at that thing. There's like warm stuff and cool stuff on the same... I know. I should just quit music and go into watercolors. Okay, so this is something we talked about back in week 1, but it's relevant to our work. What do we need to be able to read music? We need a system for audiation. Audiation being our ability to like hear and predict musical sound in our heads. Knowledge of notation, that is the ability to interpret what's written down. And then confidence and mental focus, the awareness of like, yes, I can do this. And I'm in a position where I feel like I can do that without being judged. And lots of practice. We're going to focus on, really all of these tonight. Many people are familiar with solfege because of that song from The Sound of Music. Do, a deer, a female deer, re. Well, she says, when you read, you begin with A, B, C. When you sing, you begin with do, re, mi. We're labeling pitches that we could probably already sing. In fact, we could probably all sing a major scale on solfege together. Even if you can't, give it a try. Do, here we go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's me. Hey, that's me as Julie Andrews. Okay. So here's our system, folks. It's an international system for labeling pitches in a scale, and when we say solfege, we're talking about the system. When I teach this at school, we also use hand signs. The hand signs were developed later, but the reason we use hand signs is because they attach what comes out of our mouth to something we can do with our bodies. It's a kinesthetic motion approach to connecting different parts of our brain. At first, the hand signs get in the way. At first, the hand signs are like walking and chewing gum at the same time. But as we become more familiar with a kinesthetic system like this, sometimes you'll find that your hand does the sign and magically the pitch comes out of your mouth because your brain has built a connection. So we're actually going to use one hand or two, and please sing a scale along with me. You can echo me or you can sing with me, and we're going to move slowly up one at a time, and I can see all of your faces. Here we go. Remember, we are on mute, folks. This is a play along at home situation. We're starting on do. Here it is. Ready? Do. Then we angle the hand up a bit. It goes re. It flattens out. We sing mi. Thumbs down. Fa. So. Cup hand. La. Point up. Ti. And do. Check that out again. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the pictures. We can sing a scale one more time. Sing it with me from the low do. Here we go. Do. Re. Mi. Fa. So. La. Ti. Do. The astute among you will note that the ones where there's a single finger pointing in a direction are the ones where there is a half step in the scale. So when we sing fa, the thumb is pointing down to mi. When we sing ti, it's pointing up to do. These hand signs are designed to help us with singing. I will leave it up to you whether you want to use the hand signs tonight. This is a lifetime project, not a 700 to 800 project. But I want to show you these just so that you know that they exist. But some of you might be still wondering, Chad, why do we use solfege? In fact, you might have been in like a tag circle or something like that where people are using number signs. Like maybe you've seen that before, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Some folks are nodding. Often we see that in barbershop because it's a really like accessible way to jump into like labeling pitches, right? Because we already know numbers. We don't have to memorize anything new. But here's the case that I want to make for why we're using solfege tonight. First of all, we can learn pitch relationships the same way that we can with numbers. If you know what 2, 5, or re, so sounds like in any key, then you can copy paste that in your brain into different spots. If you can always find the home tone in your brain, do, and you always know that that's do, that's really useful information. Second of all of the solfege syllables are one syllable. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Sorry, 7. That's 2 syllables, folks. What are you going to do? In high school, we used numbers, actually, and we sang sen instead of 7. Your mileage may vary. It's designed for singing. Specifically, in some ways, the solfege syllables, there are certain vowels that help us with our tendencies to sing certain pitches, flat or sharp. TMI, really. It's distinct from count singing, and this is the big one. So when we're working with rhythm, I like to use count singing, which is 1, 2, and 3, and 4. But if we use numbers for count singing and for solfege, it can get confusing. So we've got solfege for pitches, and we've got count singing for rhythm. And then the other thing is that like sharp 4 is tricky to say in one syllable, right? Or we've got like flat 3, whatever that is. There are actually solfege syllables for the flats and sharps that we'll get to in just a moment here. So here are some like types of solfege. We're going to kind of jump through these. I know this is like a long ramp up, but I promise we're going to be sight singing in like 5 minutes. Y'all, hang on. Fixed do solfege is a system that they use primarily in other parts of the world, especially in Asia, where instead of labeling a pitch, even if you're an instrumentalist, a C, they always call C do. And this can be useful in some ways, but I find that it's much more useful for us when we're mostly 95% of the time in barbershop singing in a major key to sing in movable do solfege, which is to say that do is always the home tone of a major key. So you hear that pitch blow and you know that the pitch being blown is do. That's really useful information. So I can give you that pitch and we can sing a scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Sorry about my out-tune singing. I'm working on it. Okay. And then the other thing, again, not talking a lot about minor keys here today, but law-based minor is my preferred system, which is to say, if we take all those same pitches, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but if we start on la, do, ti, la, and we sing from la to la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, we end up with a minor scale, folks. They use the same pitches, but they prioritize a different one as home. That's everyone's brains exploding. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But what's important for us to note is that just like in that C major scale, there's a half step in between E and F and a half step in between B and C. There's similarly a half step between mi and fa, no matter what the key is, and a half step between T and do. So let's talk about steps and skips, and this is the final key piece before we talk through actual sight singing. A step is an interval where the notes in the scale are next to each other with none in between. So like this is a stepwise scale here. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. There's no point where we skip from do to mi, or do to fa, or re to la, or mi to do, or anything like that. They're all next to each other. That's stepwise. But skips are where things get tricky and typically where we run into trouble as we're sight singing. So we will do some sight reading of skips today, but we're going to start with some stuff that is mostly stepwise. Here's some pictured ascending by step. You can see all of them are on the next line or next space. Descending by step, ascending by skip, or descending by skip. Gang, it's time to do some real sight singing. You may choose one of 2 or 3 things with your hand signs. Hand signs are brand new to you, don't use them. Or only use for do, which in this case, here's our do for this exercise. I recommend whipping out that do. It's like a big ball of dough in your hand. I recommend whipping that out for whenever we get to a do, just to center us on that pitch. Okay, we're going to use our rhythm reading skills first. We are in a meter of 3 because the 3 is the top number of the time signature and the quarter note equals 1 beat. So if we count sing this, we're going to count sing the first line together, and remember that this dotted half note equals 1, 2, 3 beats. Ready, here we go. 1, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 3, and 1, 3. Awesome. If we just slow it down and take it out of rhythm for a second, we're not putting it with rhythm yet. We've got do. We're going to sing each pitch at a time, sort of out of time. Do, ti, do, re, re, mi, fa, fa, so, so. How we doing? Are we alive? It's stepwise, right? We can handle that. Let's sing it in time with rhythm. We're going to sing the solfege syllables, but we're going to do it in rhythm. Ready, here we go. Do, ti, do, re, re, mi, fa, fa, so, so. How we do? Give me thumbs. Doing okay? Awesome. Now we have actually got our first skip here. We're going to skip from so all the way down to do, but give us that hand sign and sing do. Do. That's the easiest one for us to memorize, right? So sing so do. Sing it with me. So do. Let's try sight reading without doing the rhythm first. Starting on do, second line. Ready, here we go. Do, 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 re, mi, fa, fa, so, so, do. Heck yeah. This is how we do it. It gets more complicated when we add a bunch of other stuff, but this is how we do it. So we're going to do some sight singing practice, and we're going to use some classic Chad style worksheets here. I'm going to reshare. We're going to do the whole desktop. We're going to put it over here. Cool. Okay, so step 1, we're in 4/4. That's awesome. We know there are 4 beats in a measure. We've only got quarter notes and quarter rests. Super easy. We're going to start on same do. F is do. Sing it with me. Ready, and do, 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 re, 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 mi, mi, re, re, do, do, do. We're doing it, right? And luckily, everybody in this room is a barbershopper or a singer of some kind, and so we already have a concept of what the scale sounds like. All we needed was just knowing what it looks like on the page, right? Let's try some with T involved. Here we go. Ready, and do, ti, do, 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 ti, do, 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 re, do, 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 re, do, 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 ti, do, re, do, ti, do, re, do, do, ti, ti, do, do, do. Oh yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8 bars that we're sight reading, gang. I hope you're stoked about that. I am. Thank you for nodding. That helps me know that you're, I don't know, pleased with yourself. Thanks for the thumbs up, Scott. Okay, let's do number 15. We're going all the way up to so. Here we go. Ready, and do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, re, re, do, do, do. Do, re, do, re, do, do, do. Do, re, do, re, do, do. Follow the bouncing ball. All right, let's get a little more complicated here. Ooh, do is now C. I'm going to give us that C. Do. Sometimes it helps to set up the key in your brain if you do a little mental do, ti, do. Sing it with me. Ready, and do, re, mi, 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 fa, 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 mi. Re, 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 mi, 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 fa, 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 so. Breathe. Doing okay? Hanging in there? Try the second line. Ready, and do, do, re, re, mi, 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 mi. Re, 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 mi, 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 re, 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 do. As you can see, we've got lots of exercises here, which will be in the Google Drive folder. Okay. Look, we've got some examples that actually have words. We're going to ignore the words for now, and we're going to sight sing on solfege because that's the thing we're practicing. But once you know what it sounds like in solfege and you've done it that way, then you can add the words. Let's do the first phrase of exercise 9 in unison on solfege. Ready? Let's check pitch. Do. That's a little low for me tonight because I'm trash in my voice. Okay. Ready, and do, re, mi, re, mi, fa, so, so, la, la, ti. Your brain probably wants to go, do. It's the point up nature of ti. Try it. We're going to go slow, sing words, and flit your eye back and forth between the notes and the words. Let's see what we can do. Ready? I just cannot wait to see mountainsides covered in green. Try doing some sight reading on this second line. Starting on high do, ready? On words. Sky so blue and clouds so white, they all make me feel so right. Oh yeah, that's what we're doing. In a second though, we're gonna go back to barbershop and it's gonna get way more complicated. Let's take a look at something that's not quite so simple, but is still in that zone. So we did some rhythm reading on this one. This is April Showers, just a simple little tune. We've got some skips here, though. So step 1, what key are we in? Well, we could use our rule and go to the second to last flat and know that this is an E flat, or we can just ding-dang Google 3 flats. And we know it's E flat. Either way, we know that E flat is the key, and wouldn't you know it, we start on an E flat. So we're starting on do. Many, if not most, melodies start and end on do. Here's do. But we've got a first example of a skip here. We're going to systematically go through this in a little bit, but the thing I'll tell you is, since it's a skip and we know we're only skipping one, we're skipping from do to mi, and then we're skipping fa and going to so. So it's do, do, mi, so, right? Do. Let's sing not skipping, just steps. Do, re, mi, fa, so. Sing it with me. Do, re, mi, fa, so. Sing do, re, mi. Do, re, mi. Sing do, re, mi, but put re in your head. Do, mi. Sing do, mi. Do, mi. So we've got April flower. How about that? Now when we need to skip to so, we sing the middle one. mi, fa, so. Put fa in your brain. Mi, so, mi, so. Flowers, April flowers. How about that? Yeah. Now we've got to skip downward to re. Sol, fa, mi, re, do. Sol, fa, mi, re. Put the middle ones in your brain. Sol, re, sol, re, sol, re. Sol, re, mi, fa, so, mi. Ready? Do your best. If something weird comes out because we just learned about solfege 20 minutes ago, that's okay. That's normal. But sometimes, even using the system will make bleh come out of your mouth, but on the right pitch. Try it on solfege with me. Ready? Do, do, mi, so, re, mi, fa, sol, mi. How about that? Can you see what we're getting at? The goal tonight is not for us all to be fluent sight readers in the next 29 minutes. The goal is to learn the tools so that as we practice with them, they can become second nature. Hence my shirt today. One of my favorite NED quartets, second nature. Yeah, that's kind of the goal. I want to stop here for questions. Tim says, "Hi Chad, my name is Tim Potter. I'm blind. Any tips for someone who is blind?" That's such a great question, Tim, and I would have to know a little more, I think, about the way in which, because I know we've communicated a little, or you've communicated with some of the folks who are running the class, right? And I know that, do you use music with accommodation, like music with Braille or anything like that?
Hi, Chad. So no, I don't.
Yeah.
I just use basically using it primarily through ear. I don't use Braille at all because Braille is very difficult to use and everything. So now electronic doesn't really use Braille that much. So I
Totally.
don't.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. No, that's really useful. So here's what I would say. I would say that like it is absolutely possible to learn and sing barbershop really, really well with only learning tracks. And I would say that the stuff that we're working on here, in the same way of the like shadows have colors sort of thing that I was talking about, when you learn more about the systems of how the music works, it can help your ear skills to grow as well. And so when we know, for instance, that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is the major scale, and that the only choices, unless we've got a flat or a sharp note, are do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that's really useful for us to know. The other thing that I would say, Tim, that actually will not be that different, I hope, from the way that that folks who do see are building ear skills. A lot of what we can do actually is use silly little like vocal exercises to build our knowledge of pitch relationships. And singing those accurately and learning to sing those accurately is going to help us a lot. So here's an example of sort of what I'm thinking of, and I am going to ironically put the visual aid up on the thing for folks who it does help. But maybe you've done a version of this exercise. The one that I hear in barbershop circles is a lot of like 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you've done this one before, that's great. If not, awesome. But you're like adding a pitch in the scale as you go. Knowing what do, fa, and do, so, and do, la sound like is going to help you learn music more accurately. Particularly if you can always find your way back to do. An exercise that I've heard before, do, re, do, mi, do, fa, do, so, do, la. Finding your way back to do is probably easier than re, so, re, fa, re, mi, re, do. So finding ways to label pitches and to like sing in relation to each other is going to help build ear skills. I'm going to think more about this, Tim, because I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about how these processes might work for somebody who's vision impaired, but it's an important question. I'm glad you asked. Other questions? I want to leave space for that before we dig into some barbershop. Let's dig into some barbershop. I shouldn't have teased that, right? So here's the thing that my singers in my chorus were always asking me, Chad, how do I find the starting pitch of a song using sheet music and using the learning track? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to find out what it is in solfege, so that when you're on the risers and you hear the pitch blown, you can do the mental gymnastics that it takes to sing that pitch correctly every time. So let's say we've got this song. This was our contest ballad a few years ago. It starts on a nice do-do part, and the pitch we get is an E flat. What's the key of the song is the first question, and I answered it for us, but we can see the key signature, and it's E flat. Then we ask, what note does my part sing? So let's say I sing lead. Well, if we hear an E flat, and I start on this note, well, that's an E flat. Guess what, folks? I start on do. That's the easy one, right? Same in this song if I'm singing bass. I'm singing do down here. But let's say I'm singing baritone. So if we're in E flat, and then my first pitch is a B flat, think up from do. Do, re, mi, fa, so. I sing so to start. And so the thing that I ask my singers to do in Voices United is we blow the pitch. Oh, sorry. And actually, there are baritones in their brains without singing out loud. They are audiating do, re, mi, fa, so. One thing that I recommend is write it into your music so that you always know what solfege you start on. And then a thing that you can practice at home is play the beginning of the learning track that just gives you the starting pitch or the do, the blown pitch, right? And actually practice singing out loud, do, re, mi, fa, so, and then put it in your brain, do, and then press play on the learning track and see if you got it correct. That's going to be a good technique. If I'm singing tenor, do, re, mi, I start on mi, and knowing that is going to help me come in a lot better than throwing something at the wall to see if it sticks, right? And it means that we don't have to hum the pitch after we hear the blown pitch because everybody's doing it in their brains. We have a system for labeling the pitches. We went through this before, but here's kind of the system that I want us to use for when we're singing skips. We'll identify the solfege for the two notes. We'll sing stepwise on solfege between the two notes, connecting them. We'll sing stepwise, memorizing the pitches in the interval. We'll put some of them into our heads. And we'll sing back and forth between the two notes until we're comfy. So example, on this one, we went do, re, mi, fa, so. If we need to find this note, so, fa, mi, re, do, so, do, so, do, so, do, so, do. You might be thinking, Chad, can't I just listen to the learning track for that? Well, yes, you can. If you press pause, and if you really sing back and forth and you do it really diligently, sometimes a multimodal process is going to help us where we're like actually using different parts of our brain and doing it without only hearing. Because sometimes with the learning track, it is easy to convince ourselves that we got it right. And so this is another thing that I would say for Tim, or really for anybody, is that like when we only use learning tracks, it is tempting to say, yeah, I got it. Because when you're singing along with Tim Warwick, you feel like a barbershop god. Who doesn't, right? So another tip for Tim or anybody else is like, sometimes stop, press pause on the learning track, sing what you think comes next, and see if you're right. That will be a really key thing, right? Because you're actually testing yourself instead of testing your ability to like guess or get it a split second after Tim and think, oh yeah, I nailed it. Or whoever's making your learning track, that is. Oh boy, folks, it's a real barbershop tag. There's a million stars in the skies. I'm going to sing lead on this first. And the thing that we'll note is that there is a skip right out the gate. We're starting, we've got our key. We're in G flat major. Hey, look, we start on Do. Isn't that nice? Do. First two pitches, Do, Re. Beautiful. Easy peasy. Nailed it. Now we've got this one. Let's count up and see what it is. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, So. So, Fa, Mi, Re. We just left from Re. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, So. So, Fa, Mi, Re. So, Re. Re, So. Do, Re, So. Are the first three pitches. Are you following along with what I'm doing with my mental math? That's the goal, is to tie it to what you're actually experiencing as you audiate, as you're thinking the music. And then guess what? We go back to Do, folks. We already have that one memorized. We already sang it like 2 seconds ago. So we can sing Do, Re, So, Do. Hey, look, we go back up to So. How about that? Do, Re, So, Do, So, Fa, Fa, Mi. And like a lot of music, there's a pattern here. It does the same kind of thing. Do, Re, So, Do, Do, Ti, Ti, Do. Sing the whole thing on solfege with me. And if it comes out like bleh, that's fine. Keep it slow. Here we go. Do, Re, So, Do, So, Fa, Fa, Mi. Do, Re, So, Do, Do, Ti, Ti, Do. If we were using this for practice, we might even go to the barbershoptags.com website and go to this tag and play the lead track and see if that's what we just sang. If not, we know we made a mistake somewhere along the way, and that's fine, but you have to put yourself outside of your comfort zone to actually get better at the thing. So here's the tenor part, and it starts out stepwise. It starts out on that top G flat. Let's see if I have it. Do. Okay, could be worse. All right. We're starting on Do, and we're going downward. Do, Ti, La, La, So, So. You may have noticed the first lead tenor thing on this second line, they're like upside down like that. Well, the reason is the tenor is below the lead. And so the lead jumps up to So, while the tenor sings Do. There's a pattern here that you might memorize someday, which is Do, Mi, So, Mi, Do. Do, Mi, So. So, Fa, Mi. We could do the bass and baritone parts. I'm not going to do that, partially because I can't sing a low G flat right now. But also because the principle is the same, right? Now let's get it a little more complicated with 16 minutes left tonight. Oh boy, what are we looking at here? This is the chromatic scale, folks. Chromatic comes from the word like chrom, which is like color. It's the notes that are sharps and flats, all the little half steps in between all the notes on the scale. So you'll notice in the C chromatic scale, it goes from C to shining C, and the E and the F don't have anything in between. That's where our half step is. And the B and the C don't have anything in between. So as we're ascending, we've got C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. And on the way back down, we've got the flat versions. C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E flat, D, D flat, C. You will also notice the chromatic versions of solfege. It's conveniently written so that every time you've got a sharp version of a note, the vowel changes to an E vowel. So if we've got do, and we need to sing sharp do, we sing D, Re, Re, Mi, Fa, Fi, So, Si, La, Li, Ti, Do. How'd I do? Well, I made one of those half steps too big along the way. This is an exercise that I would recommend for folks. Sing a chromatic scale, see how far you can get singing half steps and come out accurately. So I might try this again, and I'm going to try singing chromatic solfege on the way up just to E and see if I can nail that. Do, di, re, re, mi. I'm close. I'm probably a little high, I think, right? So these are little exercises that we can do. We're really improving our ear skills as much as anything. Same thing on the way down, except instead of changing the vowel to E, it changes to A, like do, ti, te, la, le, so, se, fa, mi, me, re. The exception, ra, do, because re's already re. We can't change the A to an A because that's re. Visually, here's what we've got on the way up. Do, di, re, re, mi, fa, fi, so, si, la, li, ti, do. Do, ti, te, la, le, so, se, fa, mi, me, re, ra, do. Something like that. You can circulate this video and make fun of my ear skills if you want. I don't know. Okay, folks, it's a tag, and it's got some chromatic pitches in it. Let's start off with the lead, though, because the lead does not have any chromatics in it. This is Danny My Boy Classic Tags number 4. Thumbs up if you've sung this tag before. I love teaching this tag because it's a quick one to learn. What's our key? We're in B flat, second to last flat. Do, ti, do, re, do. So if we need to find our first pitch, it's not a B flat, so we know it doesn't start on do, but it is 2 above that. Do, re, mi. Singing on solfege, we might be able to just hack this thing. Mi, 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 re, re, mi, fa, mi. Our first skip, we've got to skip up to so. Mi, fa, so, mi, so, so, mi. That lead part sounds like Danny my boy, Danny my boy, my boy. Another diatonic, meaning not chromatic, just no sharps or flats, all notes in the scale. Our tenor part starts on so. Here's that, do again, do, re, mi, fa, so. We start on so. So, 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 la, 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 so. Whoa, what's going on up there? We got a ledger line. So, la, ti, do. Oh, we just end on high do. We can find that one. Do, do. Tenor part sounds like so, 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 la, 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 so. Do, do. Check out that baritone part. Well, it starts on a B flat, and we're in the key of B flat, so we're going to hear that pitch. And we know that's our pitch. And look at that. Our baritones are so happy. They only sing one pitch for almost the whole thing, and they get a really satisfying chromatic note toward the end. It goes do, 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 do. What's that? Well, we know it's a flat version, and it's the flat version of T. So if it were not flat, it would be do, ti. But since it's the flat version, do, ti, te, do, te. do, te. And then we need this last pitch. That's so. It's low so because it's an F. Do, ti, la, so. Do, so, la, ti, te. We're like circling around it mentally to label these pitches. That last pattern is te, so. So the whole baritone part goes do, 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 te, so. Bass part has 2 chromatic notes, but it doesn't start on do. Do, ti, la, so. It starts on so. And the next interval down, it goes to not fa, but sharp fa. It's the natural version of this E flat, which means that it's raised. So we sing do, ti, la, so, 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 fi, fa, mi, re, do. What's that? Do, re, mi, me. Do, re, me. Do, me. Do, me, do. Do you see where we're going with this? I'm going faster than your brain is probably going right now. That's normal. What I would recommend is getting really comfortable with like the other exercises that we started with tonight, right? Where I was like, how's everybody doing? Everybody was like, thumbs up. Yeah, we got this. Stepwise solfege. Got it. Yeah. Cool. When you read, you begin with ABC. When you read, you don't begin with do, te, so. Like that's just ahead of where we are, right? I'm going to skip this one just because it's 7:52. Here's a nice little tag. Back in my hometown. How many people have sung this tag? This is one of arranger David Wright's favorite tags. It's nice because it peels off from unison do, and it's actually in the same key as the last one. So we all start on that unison do. It looks different because we've got bass clef, treble clef, but we've got B flat, B flat. Here's that do. And the lead part starts stepwise. Do, re, mi, re. Now we need to go up a half step to me. Do, re, mi, re, me. And then jumping from me to fa, it's like sort of a skip because we've got the weird flat guy in there. I recommend going from do. Do, re, mi, fa, mi, me, fa, me, fa, me, fa. Then down a half step to me. And maybe your brain knows that we're going to resolve as you're singing with the group, and so your brain might fill in that last note. Do, re, mi, re. Me, fa, mi. That's our lead part here. So here's the challenge. We're at 7:54, so I'm gonna go to sort of next steps here. Next steps are to use the resources that we shared previously. If you're still labeling pitches quickly, I recommend that musictheory.net. I didn't make a specific YouTube playlist for this one, mostly because I think there are so many solfege resources out there on YouTube. Go ahead and there, even if you search solfege exercises, they'll lead you through some stuff that, hey, that's your 3 minutes of ear training for today, right? I hesitate to call it a worksheet in this situation, but like, yeah, we could call it that. We've got our solfege practice, these guys, that are going to help us with the stepwise stuff as we're still getting fluent with those. I recommend writing in solfege syllables, just like we did when we were writing in rhythms, as we were like just getting comfy with that. Write in those solfege syllables, and maybe you get to the point where I only really need to identify a couple of them, or if there's a skip, or I need to know like that's do every time, and so I'm going to label do every time, and the other ones I can kind of fill in. Your Again, your mileage may vary. You be in charge of your own process. I want to close by saying that like the reason. Oh yeah, we have our teaching assistants, which their contact info is on that Google Drive folder that we're sharing imminently. I want to close by sharing these couple opportunities for learning. First of all, Harmony College Northeast. If you're the sort of person who wants to jump on a Zoom call on a random Thursday night, go ahead and join us at HCNE. There are not specific classes right now that are designed for folks to learn to read sheet music, but there's all kind of learning that you can do. And if you're this sort of person who's hungry for this kind of thing, that's the place to do it. And then the other thing is talking with Diane about how do we spin this session off into stuff in the future. We're not sure exactly how it's going to look, but we are adding on September 10th at 7 p.m. I'm going to kind of summarize all this stuff into at-home practice techniques, which is less about showing you these symbol systems like right out the gate, and is more about like, okay, now I'm actually rehearsing my chorus music. What can I do to become more rhythmically accurate? What rehearsal skills can I use at home to sing more in tune? Stuff that I wish, and maybe I'll invite all my chorus singers or mandate or something, I wish that every chorus singer would come and take a class like this, because the learning track is helpful, but even when using a learning track, there are smarter and more efficient ways, and there are less efficient ways to use it. And so we'll talk about how to use learning tracks to your advantage and some other things like that. I'm going to leave time for questions, but I'll also share that solfege as a tool begins, and I said this before, feeling clunky. It feels like, why am I using this other weird system where I could just do my way through it if it's stepwise, probably? And the answer is, it starts to help once you become more fluent. And that is a tough thing to trust. But it's something that as you gain fluency with solfege or with count singing or with whatever it is, like, here's an example using count singing. As you use count singing more often, you will mentally begin to subdivide, meaning divide the like rhythms in a measure into eighth notes and quarter notes, whether you're labeling it that way or not, and you will become more rhythmically accurate as a singer. Because instead of just imitating what we hear, we're also applying a mental system to it. That's where we're going with this, guys. And I hope that this has been useful or at least interesting as we finish up this session. And I'm really curious if you all have feedback. You can shoot me an email or something like that on how this is going for you. If there's specific stuff, I know that folks have specific questions that we haven't gotten to. Particularly, I think there have been some like directors who have joined and said like, hey, here's this kind of like higher level thing that I'm trying to help my singers with. I'm happy to answer those kinds of questions as well. But I'll stay on for a few minutes if y'all do have stuff that I can answer for you. Thank you for joining us, and happy sight singing. Class dismissed if you like, or stick around and let us know how we can support.
Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks very much, Tom. See you later.
Yep.
I think the September 10th will be very valuable to talking about the learning tracks and how best to use them
I
to
hope
our
so.
advantage.
Yeah, because like some of our rhythm and pitch labeling systems will come up, I expect, in that, but some of it also will not be that. Some of it will be just like, how do you set up practice routines for yourself at home using learning tracks and sheet music and whatever resources. Yeah, I'm really excited about that idea. Actually, I'm pretty pumped. So I hope you guys all invite your quartet mates and your chorus singers and everybody else, your neighbors, your dog. Anybody who needs to, learn parts a little more accurately and a little more quickly. That's the goal.
If I have one, can I bring my pet onion?
Of course. Of course, bring an onion and marvel at the many colors of shadows. I made a lemon too. It's pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. Okay, for 6 classes.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Gail.
Thank you so much, Chad.
Totally. Good to see
I'm
you.
maybe a little confused, but okay.
That's normal.
I was always under the impression that the solfege always started on a C.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So now I'm like blown away by it, but it
Yeah.
makes total sense.
Yeah. So that would be like a more like East Asian approach to how they treat solfege. They almost use solfege names rather than like C, D, E, F. But yeah, this is. I hope this helps open some doors for you that
I think
you
so.
can
I'm
memorize dough.
excited because I'd like to be able to find my first note every time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And tell you what, like this is the sort of thing that if you have a section leader in your chorus or a director or somebody like that, you might have somebody in your life who can help you check your work, right? Or one of our teaching assistants or me, and you can say like, hey Chad, I'm practicing finding my starting pitch and this one's a little funky. Can you help me with this? Can you help me suss this out? Or I've labeled these 3 sheet music things and I took photos with my phone. Like, did I do it right? And how do I find that mentally? And folks would be willing to help with that because, you got to put it into practice. You got to actually try the thing.
Yeah. No, this is good. Okay,
Cool.
Great. Thank you so much.
Totally. Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah.
So do you think it's wrong? Because what I do sometimes to find my pitch is I have all these little things I do, like, oh, that's the born free. I go born free, or it's on fa, and I'll go, oh, that's here comes the bride.
That's great. That's awesome.
That's usually
that's
what I do to
totally
find it.
Yeah, and if you have those, that might be something that we talk about if we had to add another session. It's sort of like an ear training thing more than a sight reading thing, but it's like totally, when I was in high school in AP Music Theory, we had ear training Friday, and every Friday morning we would do a little ear training quiz, and then we would practice those things that you're talking about exactly. Here comes the bride. If you know that that's the sound of a perfect fourth, and you can identify in your sheet music that that's the interval that you have to sing from do to fa, do, re, mi, fa. Yep. Then yeah, that's useful because you're applying a mental system instead of just shooting in the dark, right? Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Chad,
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
my hardest one is going from a high root down to a fifth or something.
Totally. Yeah. So I'm with you there. And there can be a lot of reasons that that's challenging. Something we didn't talk about is just a vocalism thing, which is sometimes when you're jumping to a different part of your vocal range, that can also make it harder to sing the dang thing in tune, right? But in terms of audiation and like predicting that sound, what I would recommend, like, we've been in B flat all night, and if we know that we need to sing from do to so, well, we count down. We sing do, ti, la, so, and we fill them in. Do, so, do, so, do, so, do, so, do, and then we add the words. We add the words last. Whatever that is, right? So we can, I hear you plunking the thing, and that's awesome. Plunking the thing is like, one step of doing that. But if we can apply solfege to it, and then every time we get there, we know that that's actually so. The more worn your hand and foot holds for do and so become in the climbing wall that is solfege, the more useful that information will be for you. Yeah.
I just have to learn certain things like o. That's like 1 5 1.
Totally.
And that means I can come backwards and forwards.
Right. That's what Gail is talking about too, right? Is like, how do we, take, if you've got an interval in your brain that you already know, like Here Comes the Bride, then absolutely.
Fourth.
Yeah, you can totally apply that mentally.
Yeah.
And so that's where the like, what do we need to read music thing comes in, because it's like, well, that's your mental system, right? Awesome. Amazing. Now we connect it to what we see. And that's the tricky part, that I find that like barbershoppers often have better ear skills than they have reading music skills,
Yes.
right? But once you can identify it with your eye, or identify it once with a pencil and write it in, you know, you don't have to be able to do it snap like immediately, right? Rarely in barbershop are we in an actual sight singing system or situation, right? When was the last time you were at chorus rehearsal and your director passed out a piece of music and said, all right, a 1 and a 2, we don't do that, right? In 2026, we have learning tracks and we have time ahead of time. And that's part of our process. And so it's less about how do we like sight sing that, and more about how can I, while I'm drinking my morning coffee, write in useful stuff that's going to give my brain something to hang on to, rather than only listening to the learning track all the way through.
Thanks, Chad.
Totally. Yeah.
Very much.
We
Chad.
will
Thanks.
see you next time. You know, if you are a praying person or a vibes person, send a little extra something to my vocal folds, please.
We'll be thinking of you, Chad. We'll be rooting
Thanks,
for you.
guys. See y'all.
Bye. It's